Welcome to Wales Tech Week 2021. Thank you to our partners. Enjoy the session.
Good afternoon. Happy International Women in Engineering Day. Happy Prize Month if you're celebrating either of those important events. Welcome to the Wales Tech Week Routes into Tech panel discussion. My name is Jessica Leigh Jones and I'll be your sort of host for this session. I'm an astrophysicist by trade and an engineer by profession. I spent most of my career in the manufacturing industry before leaving to co-found iungo Solutions. So iungo is a career tech company, and we are building a platform that allows people to design personalized career pathways into different sectors. So I'm really delighted today to be joined by my fellow panelists. Firstly, we have Callum Kershaw, who's an information and security manager at Fujitsu UK. Vivian Buckley, vice principal at Bridgend College. Rhys Griffiths, relationship manager at the Open University, and Matthew Turner, industry and external engagement manager at Cardiff University. So we've got a fantastic panel lineup, and I will hand over to Callum to introduce himself.
Thanks, Jess. So I'm currently information security manager at Fujitsu, but sort of a sole focus today as well on Cyber College Cymru, and what we're doing for the sort of junior talent here in South Wales and the opportunities that we can provide them through sort of tech and, more importantly, cybersecurity. I've got an invested interest in sort of Wales as well, being Welsh. I had to move away from my opportunity to Bracknell to study as a degree apprentice in Fujitsu, but it's all about providing opportunity to the students here in Wales. There's a lot of startups, there's a lot of large organisations, as we know, and we can really provide sort of value add to the skills gap there is in the UK. So thanks for having me.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Viv and I'm the Deputy Principal at Bridgend College. I'm really, really pleased to be here, most of all because by trade I'm a theatre director and by profession I'm a teacher. So it always fascinates me that I find myself more and more as my career develops, spending time with the fabulous people you see on the screen with me today, who I'm sure have got infinite knowledge beyond mine about the technical aspects. But I suppose the reason I'm here is because the college that I work at is a vocational training centre, and more it's becoming evident that whichever vocational training route you're looking at, technology is absolutely at the heart of it. And at Bridgend College, we are super, super excited because in September, we open a brand new STEAM Academy, which is one of the first kind of centres of its type in Wales, which will be putting engineers, mathematicians and digital artists all in the same space. And we're really looking to see how that will innovate our curriculum and how that will move kind of like the tech jobs forward even further than they already are. So super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hi everyone, so I'm Rhys Griffiths. I'm the Business Relationship Manager at the Open University. Delighted to be here and be speaking to you today as part of this panel. So my role at the OU is I engage with employers around their learning and development needs, really. So anything that they're looking to do, if they're looking to access HE education, either through sort of more traditional degree routes or perhaps looking at maybe some alternative ways of doing it. And for those that don't know about the Open University, I mean, we're an online university, so we use EdTech, to its fullest capacity, and we've been pioneering distance learning for over 50 years now. And the idea from an OU's perspective is about how can we take university to where you are. So whether that's in the boardroom, whether that's in a sort of kitchen table, we can be there for you in terms of a university access and making university available to everybody. And certainly over the last few years, particularly in Wales, we've been growing our reach and working more with employers, particularly around things like degree apprenticeships, and we offer one of those to Welsh employers in applied software engineering. So really keen to talk a bit more about that a bit later on. And obviously, if you've got any questions, then please do ask.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matthew Turner. I'm the Industry and External Engagement Manager for the School of Computer Science at Cardiff University. So the School of Computer Science, we are a community of around 650 undergraduates and about 600 postgraduate students. We offer a range of undergraduate and postgraduate programs, many of which include placement options where students go and work in industry. And that's a real, I guess, feature of a number of our kind of offerings, which is that close engagement with industry. We also have a range of conversion master's courses where people from a first degree in a first discipline can come in and undertake an intensive conversion course in computing. We're also home to the National Software Academy and Data Science Academy, where those courses that we offer in those bodies really are industry focused and offer opportunities for students to really engage quite closely with industry. As well as the teaching, we're home to around 60 active researchers in areas such as cybersecurity, AI, data science and visual computing. So happy to talk about some of that later on.
Fantastic. So I think you'll all agree that we have a really, really top-notch panel with us today, some fantastic and varied experience around the table, which is exactly what we want. So we want to make this discussion as interactive as possible. We can't see you, unfortunately, but we can receive your questions and comments through the chat. So please, ask away any questions. I'll bring those in at every opportunity I can. And obviously to the panelists, this is a free-flowing discussion. Don't wait for me to ask you a question. Just if you've got something to say, jump in there. So let's kick it off. The first question really, or the first area to explore is really, why should a young person think about a career in tech? And I'd like to go to Viv first on this one, because I'm really interested in your kind of creative background and how maybe, that sort of applies here. So over to you, Viv.
Oh, thanks, Jess. I think it's kind of what I was touching on just now, because for me, I can't think of a vocational area that isn't going to be enhanced or isn't already being enhanced by more knowledge around technology. So I think it's really important that everybody develops that broad base of knowledge, whatever vocation it is that they're really interested in. And when I'm thinking about some of the work that maybe is happening in the college at the moment, a bit of a case study in terms of why technology would be a decarbonisation project we're working on, in terms of looking at homes and the fact that what we're being told is by 2050, we're not going to be able to have gas boilers heating our homes. And all of that, to me, as a creative person, feels kind of like, okay, so somebody needs to design a new boiler and plumbers are going to need to be retrained in how to fit that boiler. But actually, it goes so much further than that. Because we live in a world now where everybody wants smart technology. I'm obsessed with the Domino's pizza app, when it tells you that your pizza's ready, and I want to live my life with that app now. And I think it's not going to be any different with everything moving forward. We're going to want some of those creative solutions. And in order to get to those creative solutions, what we need is new people to be thinking about tech as a career moving forward, because it's not just going to be your traditional tradespeople, your traditional manufacturers moving forward. It's going to be people who maybe have got much more of a creative perspective on things. And sticking with the heat analogy that I've just been using, or the heat example, one thing that we know we're actually going to need are people to go into homes and actually become home energy advisors. People who are going to need to be able to look at what people have currently got, use digital tools to work out what could possibly work for them, and then be the point of contact to advise people in how to move that forward. And I think that broad range is what's really fascinating. And I think in the next kind of 5-6 years, we're going to see qualifications really changing, so that even if you are somebody who's thinking of more of a traditional engineering manufacturing route, or a more traditional IT route, or whichever form of technology you've been thinking about, I think we're going to see so much more blending. I think we're going to see so many more of those areas starting to spill in and all work together. And that concept of kind of disruptive innovation, I think, is really super exciting. So for me, long-winded answer to probably a quick question, I think it's the opportunity that's there. So if I was a young person looking forward now, I would absolutely be wanting to find out how I could get involved with that party, because it's going to be incredibly exciting.
I think everything needs to be secure as well, Viv. So that's where sort of cybersecurity is playing a key role. You can see sort of from a Welsh Waters perspective or Admiral Insurance perspective, two large organisations here in Wales, financial services and insurance services, they need to be secure. So it's sort of secure by design as well to ensure that we are thinking about the cyber sort of risks involved and how we sort of operate.
I think as well, you've got to look at the opportunity that presents itself as well. You know, in Wales, when you look at the size of the tech sector, I think it's worth something like 8 billion a year to the Welsh economy, and there's over sort of 3,500-4,000 businesses currently at the moment as well in Wales, and I think that's growing. There's a big startup culture here as well, and I think it's exciting to be part of it. And I think just going back to what Viv was saying, it cuts right across everything that we're doing now. So it's not just you work for a tech business or a business that's doing things with IT or web design. It actually cuts across every single sector. So there's opportunity there. If you want to work in the civil service, you can go and work in tech roles and work on things like digital transformation in those sectors. And more and more those services are sort of being brought in house, and they need people with those skills. And I think that to me makes it quite an exciting sector to be a part of. And perhaps it's not tech sector, it's just tech, I think is what we should be talking about, because it is so cross-cutting really. And we've recently done a report at the OU, Skills for Success, which we're going to launch tomorrow. So I'll give you a bit of a snippet before it launches tomorrow. But it found that I think it was SMEs in Wales, around 77% of those that were surveyed as part of the report were lacking the skills required to successfully implement new technology. So whilst that's quite amazing to hear, I think if you're looking to get into the sector, you should be quite excited about that, because you can make an impact. And again, that's just another reason why people should be getting involved. There's opportunities everywhere.
Yeah, I'd absolutely echo what Rhys just said there. Technology is very much a horizontal rather than a vertical. It's all pervasive. And if, the experience of the last 18 months or so has taught us, we're completely reliant on technology now in absolutely everything we do. And, if I think about the 300 or so companies that have been in to come and work just with our software academy in the last few years, it ranges right the way from companies doing technology for agriculture and farming, right through to insurance and the public sector, but startups, health tech, but also the third sector and charities as well. So, like Rhys and Viv and Callum have said, the opportunities are endless, and it's not just getting into technology into a technology role isn't just about coding. There's a myriad of other associated roles as well, and I think that's really important to remember.
Yeah, some really, really interesting points coming through there. And I sort of agree with everybody. This is a cross-cutting theme, and it is so much more now about combining creativity with technical skill than it is just being, a technical person, a coder or a software developer. It is about so much more than that. And that is why this sector, this discipline is so cross-cutting. But I was really interested to hear sort of Viv's example there about decarbonisation. And so I suppose a question to Callum first and foremost is, how is industry reacting to this? There's a lot of talk from government around decarbonisation and around green jobs, the creation of green jobs and sort of, smart metering and the tech involved in that. How is industry responding? And then maybe a broader question to the group is, how do we help, maybe not just young people, but sort of other people to retrain and upskill for these new sort of green jobs? So to you first, Callum.
So there's lots of opportunities in Fujitsu at the moment, Jess. And if we look at some of our portfolio, what we're doing in the healthcare space and the sort of agriculture things we've done as well. So it's all sort of with a green sort of mind, if you want to say, and a focus to ensure that we're going to meet sort of the government's requirements and legislation they're bringing in, but allowing sort of through technology, first and foremost, for sort of farmers to sort of grow sort of their crops in different ways. To sort of how we light street lights. There's a really good example and what we've done in Japan. Obviously, as we know, we're a Japanese company. Japan they've got a history of earthquakes. So there's sort of technology that we've brought in using artificial intelligence to ensure that we can guide people to sort of safe areas in an earthquake or in a tsunami. So there's things that we're doing constantly. We've got groups of researchers developing things and testing things through software and artificial intelligence. But I think it's key as well that sort of the scheme that we're doing on your second question through Cyber College Cymru. So we are really focused about closing the skills gap, and Viv's on the call, and sort of at the beginning we sort of looked at it for 16 to 18-year-olds, but Viv has started to see some mature students coming through, 2 of which I met on Monday. So that's a reskilling opportunity. You put them into contact with Fujitsu, Thales, Admiral, Welsh Water, so on and so forth. So we're not discriminating by age because everyone has the right to reskill, right?
Totally agree, Callum, and because you've mentioned Cyber College Cymru, it's a great project that Bridgend College Gwent are working together via Welsh Government with loads of companies involved. And I think that kind of answers a bit of the question in terms of upskilling. I think more and more we're working on the fact that what we need to do is work in collaboration. So it's about post-16 providers working together from 16 to 18, massively close links with all the universities. And I think that's one of the lovely things about being in Wales, actually. We're small and mighty, aren't we? So we've actually got the ability to work incredibly closely together. I knew there was a Callum on this call I hadn't met, and then I come in and I go, oh, it's you, Callum, hi. You know, so it is quite a small world, and that's a good thing, I think, in Wales. I think we need to use that to our advantage. But just to push that thinking a bit further in terms of retraining and upskilling, I think it's also about people like us and people who are listening challenging the perception of the routes people need to follow, because so often you're kind of put in a box, aren't you, of if it's not 3 A-levels and university, it's another route that maybe isn't valued in the same way. And I think definitely in Wales there's so much work happening, and I think we're getting there where we're starting to value vocational training routes in the same way. But I think when we're talking about upskilling, it's also starting to value things like micro qualifications, because actually another project we're working on is the electrification of vehicles, for example. Every single mechanic who is currently working anywhere in Wales is going to need to do a 2-day upskilling training course so that they can make an engine in an electric car safe. So it's not just about thinking about your whole, got to do 2 years of this, 3 years of this, and then I'll get a job. It's actually thinking about how we can not just blend vocational academic qualifications, but how can we further blend that with work experience, with real life experience. And I think creating a continuum is what we need to do, that people can hop on and hop off wherever they need to. And I think we're really well placed in Wales to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree, Viv, and just to come in on that as well, I think it's about recognizing transferable skills, because there are a lot of people who are working in one sector, which actually they may not have the technical knowledge or the technical sort of lingo, if you want to call it that, in a sector, for instance, the green sector, but they may have a real interest themselves around that. And how can you bring that enthusiasm for a sector in and then use the skills that they've got in a way that's sort of most suitable. And I think I agree that what you said there about the sort of micro courses, I mean, something that we're developing from the OU's perspective are things we call micro credentials, which are short accredited courses that sit on our Future Learn platform. So we've got things there around cloud technology and cyber, and there are going to be courses in the future around the sort of green economy as well that are going to be in development. So certainly these will come in sort of undergraduate form, they'll come in postgraduate form, and I agree that access to short, sharp learning is really important, particularly if you're switching sectors. It's about what you need to know in the shortest amount of time possible, isn't it? And that adaptability of the education sector is really important. And I think just on top of that, it's about giving people the knowledge of where they can find these things as well. That's really important. I mean, one of the best kept secrets at the OU is our Open Learn platform. Worst kept secrets is probably the right way to call it, but that's somewhere where people can go for free and get access to online learning, and there's a whole range of things there around green and the environment and energy and tech that people can access and have a go and really sort of give themselves the knowledge that they need. But I think there's also a need to encourage people to change career, because I think if you're moving from one career, particularly if you've been earning a certain salary or you've been at a certain level, stepping down or stepping back to go forward is not necessarily always what someone can do. We all have other commitments outside of work that you have, and I think there's got to be a real sort of look into how we make it easier for people to transfer from one sector to the other as well, not just from a skills perspective, but socially and economically for themselves as well. So
I think we see a lot of sort of skills being transferred in security as well, because it's such a sort of a niche, a new area, if you want to say, and there's a lot more focus on it. One of the best security consultants sort of we've got in the business came from a brewery. So this, because she's got the transferable skills into the business, you can build your security knowledge up through sort of industry qualifications, Viv, like you mentioned there, and yourself, Rhys. So I think it's about not discriminating against anyone from the background they've come from either, because security is, from my perspective, in security anyway, it's such a sort of a new era, if you want to say, with a lot more focus on it. So as long as you've got soft skills, it's transferable into a different role where you can do your industry qualifications to gain experience.
Yeah, I think it's really important that there are flexible pathways for people to come into industry or into the technology industry. One size is not going to fit all, and actually if I were sitting in Welsh Government shoes, actually what I would want is this broad range of provision across Wales from lots of different providers, providing all sorts of slightly different things, because if you think particularly around people retraining or upskilling, traditional full-time or even part-time degrees training is not going to suit everybody, particularly if they've got caring responsibilities or things like that. And so I think that idea of the flexible pathways, I mentioned earlier that we've run conversion courses for a number of years now. We've seen a huge growth in numbers for this coming September, and indeed for the last September as well. So that's an indication of what's going on out in the economy right now. Certainly both for our full-time and our part-time courses. But one of the things that we're looking at is this idea of sort of bite-sized MSCs. Can you build up to an MSc over a longer period of time? Both for the sort of conversion courses, but also some of the specialist ones. For example, if you're already in software engineering, but you might want to transfer to cybersecurity, into Callum's domain. Actually, could you build that up over a period of time, either on the job or in your spare time? So yeah, as I say, flexible pathways I think is the key.
I think there's a really good example with how the police operate. So you look at they recruit police constables, but actually what they also do is they go out and they recruit detectives and superintendents, and they're asking for people to come from other industries to come in, and then they have a whole program based around, okay, you've not come from the ground up, but we recognize the transferable skills that you have and are bringing those in. And I think there's a real good example of that already going on. And again, potentially that's something to look at for other sectors. How do you create those transferable skills pathways, maybe something like that for people to go into? And apprenticeships, certainly degree apprenticeships can play a role in that. I think they have that ability to do that, as do other apprenticeships as well at all levels. But not everyone wants to be an apprentice. You want to come in and do something else. So I think there are some examples where people are given that opportunity to go into another sector using those skills, and it's just looking at, okay, how could that be applied to other sectors and other sort of scenarios. I think
that's exactly how I came into Fujitsu as well, was through the degree apprenticeship scheme. I sort of put a 5-year plan together, but I started off in the product business. So if you look at products compared to cybersecurity, they're a million miles away to certain sort of aspects. But I sort of, through the degree apprenticeship, you get to understand what sort of challenges each sector brings to you and which part of the business you want to go into. And like you said, Rhys, and yourself, Matthew, there is flexible sort of learning pathways that you can go down and they support you in doing.
It's really quite interesting to sort of hear you all talking about transferable skills and about those flexible pathways. And it's amazing just how many different examples come up when we have these conversations, that so many people wouldn't have thought of or hadn't heard of, weren't aware of. And I think that's really testament to, I suppose, just how quickly technology moves as well, and the need to be continually learning, to be, growing professionally, and personally as well. So it's, I suppose another reason why I would sort of encourage anybody to get into tech, is just because it is so fast moving. There are so many opportunities to learn and develop and to transfer between different sectors, different roles, different departments, disciplines. It's really exciting place to be. So just a reminder to the audience to please drop some questions in. We've got a good conversation going, but we really want to be answering your questions. So please, pop something into the comments. I want to sort of move on now to why Wales. So, what does Wales have to offer to sort of budding technologists and engineers, in terms of facilities, funding, support? We've heard a little bit about startups. So we've heard a little bit about Cyber College Wales as well. I'm going to go to Matthew, because I know there are some other sort of initiatives like this, National Software Academy, National Data Academy. So maybe just start by understanding a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, if I use, I mean, the answer to the question in one word, I think why Wales is all around ecosystem, and I think the Software Academy is a really good example of that, where we had the university, Welsh Government, and industry all coming together to try and meet an industry demand for software engineers, but also not just numbers of software engineers, but also software engineers who can hit the ground running, who have through their training have got experience of working with clients, working with technologies that will be used in their day-to-day job. And I think the key thing about the Software Academy is this idea of this project-based learning model that we have, where students are working on team-based challenges or projects that are set by industry, all the way through the 3 years of the degree. And that means, as well as the academic and the technical underpinning, we're also concentrating a lot on the transferable skills that we just talked about. So the team working, communication, and particularly project management. And we're doing it again and again and again, and it sort of becomes built in. And I think that close engagement with industry is key, both in terms of helping shape the curriculum, because universities, when we're not the quickest moving sometimes in terms of keeping up to date with trends, but actually the more information we can get in, the better it is for us. But also it then feeds directly into the students. The things that we're teaching the students, they're learning from people who are doing the job, and then the degree apprenticeships that Rhys are sort of another step on for that, but perhaps a slightly different pathway.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, really, really interesting to just sort of find out a little bit more about that, I suppose. And Callum, I don't know if you want to sort of extend on Cyber College Wales and kind of how it works, and if there's anybody looking how they might apply to that, maybe.
Yeah, and Viv, feel free to jump in as well if you want to add anything from a Bridgend perspective. But sort of, it was, to be honest, it was a sort of a clash of heads, if you want to say. I don't think it's the correct term to use, but sort of we've brought together sort of two organisations originally. It was Fujitsu and Admiral, and Talis came on board then as well, with their close links with to the NDEC in Abervale and Welsh Government. And we knew that there's not only in Wales, there's a sort of national shortage across the UK in cybersecurity skills. There's opportunities in Wales, but the students don't know about them. They just think there's just sort of the opportunity to go into college, university, the more academic route. But we're actually looking for junior entry-level staff that are shaped sort of in the career that we want them to be in. So Cyber College Cymru offers that opportunity. We also work with universities because we know that some people would like to go down the route of going down degree apprenticeship scheme like I done, or whether that's just a normal apprenticeship. So we're working with the unis to provide an opportunity for them to develop for the university as well. But the sort of College Cymru sort of provides placements, they provide sort of certificates, so industry qualifications in year 2, Jess. So we are really putting them through sort of the subjects and sort of giving them one-to-one sort of mentorship next year as well, we're looking to do. So we're ensuring that these budding sort of cybersecurity experts know the opportunities they have in Wales. Like I keep referring to, I had to move away from my opportunity. I had to move to London at the age of 18, and it's daunting going into my first ever job. But these opportunities are available in Wales, but it's about giving the sort of industry sort of leads the opportunity to work with students over 2 years to identify the talent. And we know that there's probably not enough apprenticeships for the sort of, if we go Palm Wheels for everyone, but not everyone will want to go down an apprenticeship route, because we've got the sort of the degree opportunity as well, where we can track their progress at university and pick them up on the sort of grad end.
I think you've got a really good example there of how post-16 education can work as well, because essentially what students are doing as part of Cyber College Cymru is the 3A level equivalent vocational course as a BTEC Pearson qualification. But it's actually, when you start putting different components together, it's not just about the qualification, it's about the whole wraparound experience. And I suppose what Cyber College Cymru is doing is giving people a real example of seeing people from industry, watching people from business, and having role models, having people who they can actually see working. And that would be my advice to anybody listening, really, is it's once you, that the big thing is trying to get an idea of where you want to get to. There are so many different ways to get there, but somebody will help you with that. So in terms of answering the question of how you go about it, that would be my suggestion. Contact your local college, contact your local university, get onto the Open University website or whatever other platform it is, because there will be somebody there who cannot wait to take your phone call. And sometimes I think people, walking through the door is the biggest thing. And actually walking through the door and being brave enough to say, I don't even really know what this means, but I think I want to work in cybersecurity, or saying, I don't even really know what this means, but I think I want to be an engineer and I like robots, and do those two things go together? I don't know. That's the first step. And there will be someone in any one of those organizations that will then want to help you work out what that route is and what the best one is for you. But the key is eyes on the prize. You know, where is it you think you want to end up? And then somebody will certainly be able to help you go through that. And sometimes, do you know what? You've got to try lots of different pathways to get there, but it will happen. It will.
At the moment, we're operating in Coleg Gwent Eberville and Bridgend College with Viv, but the idea is that we go Palm Wheels. So we grow by 20 students in each college per year. So you, sort of, if you do the maths of it, you will realise that we're going to grow a sort of a sustainable pipeline across Wales of the budding next cybersecurity experts that could be in Fujitsu, could be in Thales, could be in Admiral. We're not sort of conscious of, we all want this person. It's going to be no infighting. It's personally up to preference of the person if they want to go down the university route, or whether they actually want to join Fujitsu, Thales, or Admiral on their degree schemes or apprenticeship schemes.
Callum, I'm sorry, Rhys, I'll come to you in just a sec. I just want to pick up on something Callum said there, because I think it's really interesting. Whenever we hear about these schemes, we hear about big names, you know, Fujitsu, Admiral, Airbus, you know. How do SMEs, how do smaller companies get involved with these schemes? Because, you know, it isn't just about creating the next generation of technologists for the big companies. It's about actually, you know, fostering an entrepreneurial ecosystem within Wales. So, you know, how do small companies actually do?
Good question, Jazz, and something I should have covered. So there's sort of, we understand that the SMEs won't be able to provide the resource, as you said, of Thales, Admiral, Fujitsu can provide, because they're an SME and they need people on the floor doing the job. They can't have them working with the colleges one day a week, but they play a perfect role as well in mentorship, open events, sort of career talks, coming in and just doing one-off sessions. So we've got sort of levels of sort of partnerships, if you want to say. So the three partners, the main partners, sort of the founding partners, then you have industry lead partners, and you have SMEs as well. So it's variant on sort of the size of your business, because we understand in Wales, it's not all about the big sort of employers here. There is a lot of small employers which can support us throughout the scheme. So obviously, if there is anyone out there in the audience that sort of is interested, and you own an SME business in cyber and you want to get in sort of involved, please reach out, because you play an important part in this as well. And you might be able to take on some of the students that you take a shine to because they're energetic and you see something special in them that they can grow a career. But yeah, most definitely there is opportunities for SMEs to join as well, because we're only in the sort of sort of first year of it all, we needed the big employers first to kickstart it off, with a financial backing as well. But there is sort of less financial sort of backing needed from an SME, where they can provide sort of support and guidance to the students. And it's something that we mentioned in our exec day yesterday, how an SME can come in and provide mentorship. So if they're local to one of the colleges, they can go in for sort of a day and sit with some of the students and work with them, because I think it's a big drive on mental health and well-being as well. And if you have someone outside of the college that you can work with, it's an added bonus at the end of the day. So just reiterate the answer. If there is anyone there in the audience today, obviously we can't see who's in the audience, but if you want to get involved in Cyber College Cymru and you're an SME, please reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn and I'm happy to provide my email address as well.
I think just to come in on the SME point there, Jessica, and sort of with Callum, it's great that you've got that set up with the mentoring. And I think what we found with certainly the employers who are classed as SMEs on our degree apprenticeship program is that the apprentices are probably getting involved in a lot more than they perhaps would be in some of the larger organizations. So they're exposed to things which I think, in true essence of an apprenticeship, that's really, really important. And we certainly are finding that with some of the degree apprentices. I think we've got it works out roughly around 50% of the people on our program are in an SME business. So they are engaging with it. They do see the value of it. I think in terms of the opportunity that an apprenticeship can provide, certainly. And like I said, they do get a bit more exposure perhaps in certain areas. And I just to sort of go back to the original question about why Wales, and I think when you look at the tech sector, it's actually, Welsh government, this is a priority sector. It's an area that they recognise attracts inward investment, and I think Wales is a nice place to live. You look at where we are. We're not far from the coast wherever we are, and we're not far from a forest or a mountain. In terms of lifestyle, and certainly in today's day and age, mental health and well-being is so important, and those opportunities to get away from work are really important. I think Wales offers that, in terms of just from our sort of geography, really. And I think that makes it attractive as well for people coming into Wales. And we've got there's some great work going on in our colleges and with universities that are recognised on a certainly across the UK, but internationally as well. So we have that here, and it's all on our sort of doorstep, really. And I think that makes Wales an attractive place to work in the tech business, and it is growing. There's people like the semiconductor cluster, that in Newport that leads the world. It is one of the world leading sort of sectors from a Welsh perspective, but not many people know about it. And we've got this in Wales, and there's also, the fintech sector in Wales is absolutely booming and growing all the time. And we've got people like Fintech Wales that are here that are working with Welsh government to push things forward. And I think, there's so much going on, and there's so much focus on the tech sector, on the skills required, on businesses coming here and people investing here, that I think, you don't need to go to London, you don't need to go to Manchester or Bristol. You can stay here. If you're Welsh, stay here. If you've come here from elsewhere, then stay here and benefit the sector. I think there's some real opportunities.
I think I just touch on that entrepreneurship point, if I may. We've had a number of students both go to work with SMEs as a result of having done a project with them or done a placement with them, but also startup companies of their own. And there's a brilliant scheme in Newport run through the Alacrity Foundation. So this is a graduate entrepreneurship training scheme, which takes graduates in, puts them through a very intensive 15-month program, and all being well, the output is that the graduates there are producing their own companies. Setting up their own companies, which are then funded. And I think they've produced something either about 12 or 15 companies to date. And it's, every year there's another cohort of new companies coming out, and it's tremendously successful. And as I said, certainly we've had a number of students go through that process after they've left us.
Okay, fantastic. I'm just going to move us on because there's a few other questions that I want us to get to before we run out of time. But clearly the consensus is Wales is a really exciting place to kind of start your tech journey and your tech career. So that's really, really great. Just picking up on the comments. So Gary Walkington saying Sigma Solutions, always looking for new employees and apprentices within agritech. So that's something for the audience to note. I'm really quite interested in understanding, you know, we've talked about some of the different routes and we've talked about ecosystem and the different ways that people can either start a career in tech or move into tech. What I'm really quite interested in, and I'm going to come to Matthew first, is to really understand what is the currency within tech, because I don't think it's just qualifications, maybe not like it is in more traditional industries. So yeah, go on.
No, I mean, you know, even if you were to go into an employer with a degree, that's not the be all and end all. You know, I think we've touched upon it already. You know, everything is moving so quickly. You know, even within the last 6 months, the last 12 months, you know, if you think how quickly things like Zoom and Teams have just developed, and it's needing to stay on top of whatever the current trend is, because if you don't, you'll be left behind. I mean, there is a place for people who understand legacy applications and legacy software, but if you want to be right at the cutting edge, then you must stay up to date. And there's, you know, a whole range of different ways that you can do that, be that through CPD with your local university or college or the OU, or indeed through professional certifications. You know, Amazon, AWS, companies are all offering these professional certifications. There was a really good example just in the last couple of months with DevOps Group, taking people in and putting them through a cloud engineer course in partnership with Amazon. So I think those kind of things are really, really important as you're going through your career.
Viv, is there anything you sort of want to add from a PLA perspective? Is there anything interesting there that people may be able to access through the personal learning accounts?
Yeah, there certainly is, and through traineeships, and there's a great Kickstart program that's happened. And I think post-COVID, there's certainly been, unfortunately, quite a lot of displacement of people from roles as well, hasn't there? So there's a real opportunity at the moment, because in Wales, there are definitely pots of funding available right now for people to retrain. And so that would be something really worth people getting on a Careers Wales website, getting on the Welsh Government website to look at those things. But you mentioned personal learning accounts there, Jess, and absolutely, that's a great way of actually working with a local college or a university to get a very bespoke qualification. So there's funding there available if you wanted some help to get you the qualification that would mean you could move on to an apprenticeship potentially, or if you're currently in employment, that qualification that will mean you can unlock maybe roles that are paid at a higher rate. So that funding is available. And again, I think it's about people coming to events like this is the first place, isn't it? And then starting to root around, because it's complex. There are so many different pots of money and so many different places you can go. But again, I do think in Wales we're doing really well. If you look at something like the hub site that Welsh Government have got for anybody who's of school age, go on there and have a little root around, and you will find links to apprenticeships, you will find links to higher education, you will find links to every single school, college that is offering qualifications. But you have got to look, and you have got to put yourself in that position. And I think that would be the other thing I would say in terms of what you need to be thinking about doing, is creating that broad base of experience like we've talked about. So take opportunities, and if you're in the audience now, you're already there, you're doing it, you're taking the opportunity. And I think if you see an advert for a one-day course or a one-day something, why not? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. But those small little steps will start to open up bigger opportunities. So make the most of anything that comes your way would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it's just about putting yourself out there. I was on one of these talks earlier, and they were talking about how they it's not just about the technical ability, it's about the person as well, and it's about the attitudes and the sort of those employability skills. So I think it's just really important that work on yourself and as an individual as well as your technical ability, and I think that will sort of set you in a good place. But yeah, can't agree more with what you just said there.
There's a big focus through Cyber College Cymru on soft skills as well, and Viv will vouch for us here. We sort of run a challenge day on Monday, and it's all about the soft skills, working in teams, presenting, because they are the sort of key principles to do well in a business as well.
Absolutely. Listen, panel, we are nearing the end of our slot here, unfortunately. I mean, there were still more questions and I think we could go on for several hours, but thank you ever so much for giving up your time. Thank you to everyone in the audience who we can't see for coming to see us. I think we've had some really interesting insights, and I think, if nothing else, there will be nuggets of information and things that people can take away and actually go in action off the back of this session. So it's been really, really great. If anybody is interested in finding out a little bit more about kind of designing pathways and more about the different options and routes that might be available, please feel free to join me on the showcase stage tomorrow morning. Sorry, little plug. At 9:15, and I'll be giving a sort of a presentation and a demo on kind of, designing routes into tech amongst other sectors. So thank you very, very much. Thank you, panelists, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for watching. Rewatch all of our sessions online. Thank you to our partners.